right. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Hey, can everyone hear me? Excellent. So nice to see everyone here. I'm so happy to see you. Today, our theme, we're talking about bad bosses and having a bad manager. And we're going to start off with some polls. Let me pull up my PowerPoint so you all can see. And hold on, I got to share my screen. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Excellent. Excellent. Great. All right. So we're going to look at how to deal with difficult bosses. Let me move my chat out of the way. All right. So we're going to start off with some polls. Here's our agenda for today. First, we're going to have some polls and find out more about you and things that you're experiencing. We're going to talk about what is a bad boss, what defines a bad boss. We're going to look at the impact of bad bosses, and then we're going to give some solutions for some recommendations of what we can do. We're going to look at some solutions, and we're going to hear some examples from people about who've had some experiences with bad bosses. So let's go ahead and get started. So we have some polls, and Angela, I'm not sure if you launch the poll or if I do.
I'll launch them, no problem.
Oh, okay, excellent, excellent. So we're going to look at number one, with bad bosses. We're going to say, first, have you ever had a boss that you didn't like or who was difficult to work with? That's our first question. So you feel free to jump into the poll and give us your response. Have you ever had a bad boss or a boss you didn't like or someone who is difficult to work with? And we're having people respond. Oh, we're seeing a lot of yeses here, aren't we? We're seeing more yeses than no. So if you're experiencing a bad boss, it may be a more common experience than you realize. Wow. All righty. Let me share the results with you so that you can see that it's more yes than no. For our next poll, we would like to know, have you, we're going to have another poll. Angela will pull it up. Have you ever quit or left a job because you didn't like the boss? Have you ever quit or left a job because you didn't like the boss? We're getting some yeses here. We are getting some yeses. Yep. And some no's and some yeses. So it's not so uncommon. We're going to talk about this later in the... Sorry, I just have a little noise in the background. We're going to talk about solutions, about what you can do if you're experiencing a bad boss. So let me end poll and share the results for you so that if you find that you left a job because you didn't like your boss, you are not alone at all. Our next poll is going to be currently, are you currently in a situation where you have a difficult boss? And if yes, you're going to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. We'll see if that's we're going to see if that's an option for us. So we're seeing some responses of, so one person is currently in a situation. Luckily for the rest of you, most of you are not. So that's a good thing. I'm glad to hear that. But for our person who is in that situation where they have a difficult boss, I don't know if we have another poll, or maybe that person is just one person. They can share in chat how bad the situation is on a scale of 1 to 10. Would be curious to see. All right, so it's very common. It's really common to have a bad boss. To start off, we want to talk about what makes for a bad boss, right? If you could put into chat the things that you think makes it a boss difficult to work with? See if you can put into chat, what are some things that that make a boss difficult to work with? Well, what do you think are some things, some characteristics? Like, what do you think? Like, what is it that would make a boss difficult to work with? What did you experience? You can put your responses in chat. Maybe they're very demanding. Maybe they give you too much work. Maybe put into chat what you think are the main things that make someone who never appreciates your work. Thank you so much, Dorothy. Oh, and that's a good one. Someone who doesn't clarify their expectations. Excellent. Poor communication skills, that can really contribute to a bad boss. Those are good contributions. Poor attitude. Thank you so much. Don't not a job like your, I'm not sure what that means. Authoritative, their attitude. Excellent, excellent. Well, we've looked at, there's some research of it, a perfectionist boss, excellence, a bad boss, not enhancing your professional development. Excellent. So we find there's been research done, and they find that the three main factors that contribute to a low rating for a boss, a low manager rating, are these. Number one, poor communication skills. And I'm seeing we're just getting great contributions in here. Thank you, Bonaventure. Not enhancing your professional development, not appreciating, and fast negative judgment. Thank you so much, Desmond. The three factors are, number one, poor communication skills. Number two, inability to drive employee morale. They're not able to motivate their employees. And then the third one is low receptivity to feedback. They find that these are the three major factors that contribute to a low manager rating. So what is the impact, right? So what is the impact of a bad manager on employees? What we find is that it generally contributes to something we call quiet quitting. And quiet quitting is when the employees say that they're in their work environment, that they're not engaged and they don't want to go the extra mile at all. These two phenomena that we're seeing a lot now, actually, and I think it started in about 2021, the signs of quiet quitting and quiet firing. Quiet quitting is when the employee, they're no longer actively engaged. They don't go above and beyond their work. They just meet the minimum job description. And like one of you put into chat, why is this happening? Because it's a lack of clarity of expectations, right? A lack of clarity of expectation, lack of opportunities to grow, not feeling connected in the organization. Quiet firing is another phenomena we're seeing, where it's when the employer wants to fire the employee, but they don't want to go through the legal hassle with HR for doing it. So what they do instead is they don't give you a promotion. They don't advance you. They don't give you raises. They give you really, really boring work. They may push back on promises. There may be a lot of bureaucracy, maybe not getting feedback from the managers, and a lack of support. Those may be signs of quiet firing. So what is the impact of bad managers on employees? If you take a look at this graph here, on the right, we see here, it's the manager rating percentile. So if the manager rating is we have the manager rating percentile, we have, which is the blue, the green is the amount of quiet quitting, and the yellow is the extent to which the employee is willing to go the extra mile. If you look at this, you can see that for the manager rating for when it's highest in the 90th and 100th percentile, you have the lowest levels of quiet quitting and you have much more engaged employees. If you look down, and then as the manager percentile rating decreases, right, into 70 to 79, 40 to 49, especially in the lowest 10%, you can see the degree of quiet quitting increases and the degree to which people are willing to go the extra mile decreases a lot. So the bad managers has a really big impact on employees, and it makes them just not feel so engaged. All right, let's take a look at our next slide. To share with you that this is a trend that's been happening in the United States. Look again at this graph. So we have the blue line is engaged and the black line is actively disengaged. We have the percent share of respondents in our x-axis, and in our y-axis, we have the years 2000, 2001, all the way up to 2022. And if you look here, it seems like 2019, 2020 was where we see a big change. We see a big drop in the actively engaged employees, and then a strong increase in the actively disengaged. Why do you think this is? Put your answers in chat. Why do you think that's happening? Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think around these years we have such a dramatic change in the level of employee engagement and disengagement? What do you think? Anyone want to put it in chat? Why do you think? So we're seeing really, especially 2018, 2019. Miriam, I agree 100%. I think it's the uncertainties brought about by COVID. COVID changed our workplace so dramatically. And it really made people rethink like what they're getting out of work, what they're putting into work. It's very difficult. So you're not alone. If you have a bad boss and you're unhappy and you're disengaged, it's a trend that's happening. Some of the research that I read said that they think 50% of all employees in the US are unhappy and disengaged and are starting to quit. So it's shocking. So if you find you're in this situation and you're in this situation and you're unhappy and you have a bad boss or a difficult boss, there is a solution. And the first step of this solution is for you to decide like what you want to do and really be strategic with your decision making. I'm going to pull on my drawer to see this one. So if it's a bad boss and you're feeling disengaged, the first thing for you to think about is, do you want to stay or are you going to quit? Right? If you're not feeling connected with the company at all, you're not happy with the company, maybe you don't agree with their mission, maybe you just don't see any opportunity for you in the company, then really you should quit. There's no question about it. But if you like the company and you like what you do and you want to stay, so that may be where you go of saying, you know what, I think I want to stay here. So if you decide you want to stay, one of the things you probably need to do is find a mentor to help give you a more balanced perspective from your boss. And a mentor can also, as we talked about in our previous event, having a mentor can help you find a way to move into a different department or a different part of the company. The other, right, because for this, you want to decide either, you have two options. You can either outlast your boss, right? Maybe your boss won't stay so long, or maybe you can find a new role in the company, right? If you decide, so that can be an option of finding a new role. If you're going to stay in your role and you're going to try to outlast your boss or try to make the best of this situation, then you're going to need to improve your performance, and you're going to need to do something that we call manage up, right? Manage up. And let me get my mouse back. Let me get my mouse back. Here we go. And, oh, sorry, I'm going to clear my drawings. Here we go. So if you're going to stay, there are some helpful guiding questions. And some of the articles that I read, there's a phenomenon called a stay interview. So if you want to stay, for managers who have employees who are quiet quitting, they recommend doing what they call a stay interview, where they ask them these questions. And I'm sharing with you these questions because I think they're helpful, even if you're not talking to your manager, if you're just assessing for yourself where you're at with this one. So take a look. One of the questions is, number one, how are you feeling in your role? Can be number one. As we put these up, if you think these are really helpful questions, put the number of the question in chat, right? Put the number of the question in chat. Second question, what motivates you to come in to work and log on every day? Right, thinking about that. Number three, what are some of the challenges you're facing that prevent you from delivering your best outputs? And what do you think the team and the company can do to alleviate these challenges? Right, so moving into solutions, instead of just being frustrated and complaining, thinking, okay, what are some possible solutions for this? Next question, are you able to find a positive work-life balance? And if not, what can, when they say we do to help, that's the manager perspective thing. What can the managers do to help? Or what can you do to help? Or what solution can you offer for your manager? 5, is there anything you really don't enjoy working on? And is there anything you're looking to work on more? Question number 6, what are your longer career term aspirations? 7, what keeps you working there? 8, if you could change something about your job, what would that be? And 9, what would make your job more satisfying? I think that's an interesting question. And then number 10, what would cause you to leave the company? So those are 10 questions. Put into chat, which of these questions do you think are most helpful? What do you think might be most helpful if you are thinking about quitting, if you're unhappy with your boss? Which of these questions do you think are really helpful, helping you to decide, should I stay? Should I try to manage up? Should I, right? Put into chat, which of these questions do you think are especially helpful? Anyone want to pop into chat? Angela says question 3. I think that's a good one. What are some of the challenges you're facing that prevent you from delivering your best outputs? Number 9, what would make your job more satisfying? Anyone else? You can see how these I like these questions a lot because they really shift you from just focusing on the problem to starting to think about what are the solutions. Mansoura, thank you so much. Question 7, what keeps you working there, right? Really good. If these questions, good, thank you so much, Dorothy. Number 2, what's motivating you to come in? So if you answer these questions and you end up deciding, wow, okay, I think I do want to stay. I am committed to the company. There are things I like about what I'm doing. Then you're going to need to do something that we call manage up. You're going to need to manage up. And manage up means really working on improving your performance. So the first step is you want to over deliver. And it's, if you're struggling in your job and you're already thinking of quitting, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to work harder, but you might have to work harder. You want to meet or exceed expectations. And as some of you earlier said that your boss, you didn't have clarity about your boss's expectations. So maybe you need to meet with your manager and get that clarity on what his expectations are so that you can meet or exceed them. Make sure that you know or you understand your manager's priorities so that you know how to prioritize what you're doing. You want to be solution oriented. Don't just bring problems, bring solutions. Take feedback gracefully, ask for feedback and take feedback gracefully, right? And try to incorporate whatever feedback you're being given. Have a learning mindset. How can you improve? Always be looking at, what are some ways that you can improve? So that's what we call managing up, and those are some tips for it. What we'd like to do is we'd like to share some, we have to share some examples from your peers of some experiences that they've been through. And we have Desmond is with us, and he's going to share with us an example he had with his manager of bad communication. And I'm gonna, Angela, should I stop share? And then how do we have Desmond come on?
Desmond, you can stop sharing, Elizabeth. Desmond.
Okay.
Hello.
Desmond, nice to see you. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah.
So tell us, I think you have a story to share with us about how communication gave you a very difficult situation with your boss.
Yes. Okay. So I think like a year ago, I worked in Nigeria for 6 years. So this happened just last year. Yeah. So while back in Nigeria, I worked as a lecturer and then a project manager at one of the UN institutes back there. So the experience I had was there are all these issues when it comes up with your bosses on how they just want some great expectations from you, and they want you to perform more better in what you're doing in your job. So far so good. I even had a promotion in my place of work, but the specific situation I had was we were organizing a conference, an international conference. So I'm always in charge of preparing the banners, doing the printout, all the other ensuring that everything is in place. So I communicated with the upper division, that's the finance department, and the those in charge of printing, that okay, this conference is coming up like in a week's time. So what are we doing about that? Because I don't want a situation that when it's already like 2 days before the conference, they'll start telling us to hurry up and finish up things quick. So I just took an initiative of myself that, okay, I've been doing this for a while. And I went and met the people in charge of printing. We designed the banners, we did everything. So what I did was, as I went ahead to prepare all of this, I sent what I was doing. I was updating my boss via WhatsApp. I said, okay, sir, this is what I've done. This is what I'm doing. The conference is coming up in 4 days' time. I have done this, I have done that. I'm also in communication with this person, and they have approved the designs and all of that. So he didn't respond, but he saw the message. Then I met with the deputy executive director, who reports to him directly as well. So we worked on the designs and all of that, and he approved it. So I went ahead, I did the print, I did the designs, I brought it to the office. I took a screenshot of it, I sent it to him that, okay, sir, the printing has been done, everything is concluded. So during the meeting, they even had to take some of those printouts to Abuja for creating an awareness of what we do in the institute. And they took that, and he was expecting that. So I felt like, okay, it's a good thing I've done. I took an initiative on my own to do that. So now the main thing was time for payment to pay this company that did the printout. So I went out to the finance department and I said, okay, this is the invoice from the company, the print company, so they can do the process. So the finance department told me that I have to go to the director to approve that, to put his signature to approve, to release the money for that. So when I went and met the director, the first question he asked me was, who authorized you to print? So I was like, and it was in a gathering with other senior staffs, like, who authorized me to print? So other people around me also, they felt uncomfortable, like, this is what you always expect people to do, to be proactive, to work ahead of time. So I said, okay, sir, I updated you on WhatsApp. I followed up with the deputy director. He said, no. Then he asked the question to everyone standing there. It's WhatsApp an official platform for communication? Don't I know they send mails? Don't I know they write memos to follow up on that? And then before I sent the WhatsApp mail, I wrote a memo officially to him, but he didn't respond to it. So I said, okay, so I wrote a memo to follow up, and it passed through the stages right up to your table. But since I felt like, okay, the conference is coming up, I took an initiative on my own to go and do that. So he was like, no, we are not responsible. We are just doing things anyhow here. Who authorized me to go and print? That did he respond me on WhatsApp? Did he respond me? I said, no, sir, but I just felt like I was updating you. So he said, okay, that is going to be deducted in my salary. Because
Oh, no.
I wasn't authorized to go
Oh,
do it.
no.
Then when that happened, I felt like my work ethics, I was so demoralized. I think it's a good thing to take an initiative to ensure that the institute, things are working well. Because if I didn't do that, they wouldn't have carried those things to Abuja. The conference itself, I mean, you know what it means to do an organization of a conference. They need banners, they need printouts, itineraries, all of those things have to be put in place, customized materials. I did all that. And when that was done, he was happy. Oh, great. This is bring 100 copies of this, bring this. And I brought all of those things. But the day of payment, he asked who authorized me to print. So that situation really made me so bad. I felt so bad about that. And honestly, I was shocked because I didn't know what to say. And he's my boss. And if you know the Nigerian factor, I don't know. Okay, African in general, I very much believe that others in this platform will agree to me. We are kind of very authoritative. Yeah, and we always demand respect. That's the senior bosses. They demand a lot of respect. And when they tell you something, that's just what you have to do. You don't have to question their decisions and all of that. So I could not defend myself. I just had to be quiet and listen to what he used to say. So it was, you know, other senior bosses went to him and talked to him, and it took over a month before he approved it. So he was just trying to teach me, I don't know what he was doing all that for. So that was the situation I faced.
I'm glad that I had a good resolution for you, that ultimately the expense got approved. But what a difficult situation, and so hard when you're communicating and you're just not getting the feedback. That was one of the things that was identified as a key factor of having a difficult manager, is that they don't give you feedback or they don't respond to the communication. So thank you so much for sharing. It's looking back, is there anything you think you could have done differently?
All right, so what I think I would have done differently was I would have seen him in person, try to create an avenue to meet him face to face and talk that with him. So I think if I faced him, he would have actually responded to me because it was a need.
Right.
It was a need for the institute. So I think next time when I'm faced in such a situation, I will try as much as I can to ensure that I confront the person one-to-one. It will be more easier because they will have no choice than to respond to me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Desmond. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I'd like to share a story that I experienced. And this was an issue of outlasting your boss. I was in a situation where at a university where I was just an adjunct faculty, and there were 4 or 5 other tenured faculty. And the tenured faculty, I don't know. I thought they felt a little, I don't know, maybe they felt threatened. I don't know, but there was conflict. And one of the people actually tried to get me to sign a different contract, agreeing to half the salary that I was making. And I just said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to sign that. That's why would I do that? It was weird. It was a weird situation. And I didn't know how to handle it. And the lines of authority weren't really clear. They didn't really supervise me. It was really someone else. And long story short, I just put my nose to the grindstone and I just did my work. And I focused on what I do well. I was teaching. I just focused on just the teaching, and what really mattered was the students and making sure I was delivering the best that I could. And after about a year or so, all of these people quit. They all resigned and I was the only one left. And it ended up being a really nice situation. And I continued working in that role for another, oh my God, for another 10 years. So sometimes it can be helpful to outlast your boss. It can turn around. I have another client where she had a bad boss and she was very frustrated and she decided, oh, I'm going to leave. I'm going to look for another job. And after about a month, her boss quit and she ended up taking his role. And so things turned around very quickly and she's now very happy in her role. So these are some examples. I'm going to come back to my PowerPoint and I'm going to share screen again. So there was Desmond's example of bad communication. And my example where I outlasted my bosses. I'm sure if you start talking with, if this topic comes up among your peers or your colleagues, I'm sure there'll be a lot of stories of people who've experienced bad bosses and how they handled it. So, so in conclusion, we talked about what is a bad boss. We talked about the impact of bad bosses on employees. We looked at a decision matrix to help you decide how should you handle this? Should you quit and find a new job, or if you stay, can you find a mentor and figure out how to manage up? I think we still have some time, so if there are any questions, we are happy to see if you have any questions. We are here for you, and if we're happy if you have any questions. And maybe as we're waiting, I know Angela had a story about a bad boss. Her situation was a little different because she knew she was leaving. And having her tell the story, it's interesting because you can tell when she tells about it, and maybe Angela, you can come on and share. It's so funny because you can tell she's leaving because when she talks about it, there's no angst. There's no angst. There's no stress. She was watching it like a soap opera. Like, oh my God, look at this soap opera happening. I'm so glad I'm not a part of it. Do you want to share, Angela, what happened? And while we're hearing, if anyone else has a question, we can do this. Go ahead, Angela.
Okay. So my experience, like Elizabeth mentioned, is kind of different because this person came in at a time when I was leaving the company, and they were going to be my boss. If I had stayed at the company, they would be my boss. And the work that I was currently doing, she was going to take over that work. So my responsibility at the time was to really give this person training about the things I was doing, update her about everything that the company was about, and just, let her settle into her role. But I think when she joined the company, immediately her vibes were different. She came in from a very traditional culture in terms of working. And the company she was joining was more vibrant. It was young, energetic, more casual, less formal. People got work done, but not in your traditional ways of work. So when this person came in at the company, things changed. She wanted people to come in at a certain time. She wanted people to dress a certain way, which was not part of the culture from the very beginning. She was very authoritative. I was giving her training for, the work that I was doing. She did not take it very positively because in her mind, what is this young person telling me? Why is she telling me what to do? but I didn't really care because I was leaving the company. I was doing my job to let this person settle in and, understand what they were going to do. Fast forward for the times that I came in the company, because I think at that time I was not consistently showing up at the office. I only went in twice a week, and for the times that I showed up, everybody was just trying as much as possible to dodge this person. We had no offices from the very beginning. She created an office for herself. And the moment that happens anywhere, you're already creating a boundary between you and the co-workers.
Yeah.
So everybody was trying to avoid the office, to avoid the corridor where the office was located. And in her communication, when she was talking to staff members, you could sense authority, boss vibes, that less of a teammate and more of I'm here to tell you what to do, which was not in existence prior. So and I learned later that she was fired because culturally she was not a good fit. And in terms of leading people, she was terrible because she did not listen to what others told her. Because the employees in place already knew how things worked, they had a lot to say. And when she proposed ideas that were not going to work, she did not listen to employees about, what they thought. And eventually, most of the things she proposed did not work. And the company had to fire her because of that. And I know that one of the staff members quit her job because of this person. And when I talked to her, she explicitly mentioned, I could not continue working there. The company is great, but this person, because of this person, I'm not able to continue working there. So for her, the best option was to quit. And it turned out well for her because mentally she was stable again. She loved the job that she got later on. And even if she didn't get a job, she was happy to leave because that's how bad the situation was between her and the boss. So yeah, that's my experience. But I saw it in hindsight. In hindsight, I really did not care. I just wanted to walk out and give her all the training I had. In as much as she gave me all this bad attitude and energy, I was just doing my part. Either take it or not. So, yeah.
So it was easier because you knew you were going to leave, but so that made your decision a lot easier because you knew there was an end time to it. Thank you so much for sharing. We have a couple of questions in the chat. One is a couple. So one about what if you have a situation where you have a business that you founded and you're co-founder and you're having a problem. We'll certainly look at that. That is a topic we could explore. We have from Clementine is asking about if the salary that you're earning is really important for supporting your family. That's definitely part of the decision for whether you stay or go. And if that salary is really important, then I think you need to stay in that job until you have another one and decide, are you going to be looking for another one? But that's definitely a very, very important factor. Miriam has a question where she says she thinks she's lost interest in her job. How do you get the interest back? She loves the field she's in, but she feels a disconnection whenever she has to go to work. So I would take a look at those stay interview questions and see if you can pinpoint what it is that is causing you to have lost interest. And maybe you're not being challenged. I think if you go back to those questions, we'll make this PowerPoint available for you. I think those questions will help you to pinpoint why you've lost interest. Maybe your work isn't challenging. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, I don't know why, but I would take a look at those questions as a last resort and try to be solution oriented, try to identify why, so that you can go to your manager and present a solution of saying, I've lost interest. I think this is the problem. Can we make these changes? I hope that helps. And then Ronald said he'd like to share his story. We just have about 5 minutes left. So What do you think, Angela?
He can briefly share his experience.
Okay. Welcome, Ronald. Tell us your name and where you're from and what you do, and then briefly share with us your story.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Ronald Mukunde. I'm from Uganda. I currently work with the Uganda National Roads Authority. It's a national roads agency in Uganda. I joined as a research fellow since April this year. But before I joined, I had colleagues, because they're all in the same sector, engineering. They warned me about this guy who is a doctor, and like, people have been coming to this job and leaving after maximum of 1 year. So it's very difficult to deal with. But then, because of the resilience, I said I will have to give it my best. I believe I will make it. But after my probation, 6 months down the road, he really started acting up. Like, all the deliverables, I delivered them, but then he says he needs to monitor me over another extra 3 months without justification. And so when I told the HR said, we need to find a way of dealing with it, because you've been sacrificing and you finish all the deliverables. But he made like life very difficult since then. So he says, okay, are you now working with the HR? Every time you bring the deliverable, he doesn't want to review them. So he doesn't approve anything, apparently. He's just saying, if you want, you can go and work in the HR department and quit the R&D department. It becomes very challenging, because, I mean, you cannot, right now it's stressing. So actually, this link, my wife sent it to me, Susan. She's also part of the Baobab platform. And she said, maybe this can help. You can share a story and see what they have to say about it, because I've been telling her all these things. And sometimes bosses can really be very strict, and like, out of nothing, they just want to frustrate you. I don't know how you think it can be dealt with, but I'm just trusting God and believing that maybe I really don't know, man. That's the thing. But I'm just doing my best to make sure I do my deliverables in time.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're doing your best to manage up, to meet your boss's expectations and exceed his expectations. It sounds like you've already worked at understanding what his priorities are. It's a difficult situation. I don't know if you might be able to get your boss and HR together to together find a solution for this, or if that in an American cultural context, that's what we would do. We would probably have a meeting with HR and your boss, and together work at finding a solution and finding out, where the miscommunication happens. I don't know if that is possible in yours, but not easy, not an easy situation. We have one more comment. I hope that was helpful. I don't know. I would take a look at those questions again. I think it's good you went to HR. It's good you have an HR there that can help support you. But I would go to HR and say, what do you recommend I do? So we have one more question that, Ronald, I hope that was helpful. We have one more question with Dorothy. What happens if there's really no love lost between the team and their boss? Communication is estranged, and it's a challenge to participate in extracurricular activities with this person. Boy, that's a hard one. Again, I would go back to the decision matrix and decide, what you're going to do, if you want to stay or go, how it's affecting you. And that's a difficult situation. I don't know exactly what to tell you because I don't have enough context, but I would take a look again at this PowerPoint and some of the options offered, and see if they can help bring about a discussion so that you can have better communication between the team and the boss. So I think our time is just about up. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Desmond, thank you so much for sharing your story of what happened. Angela, thank you very, very much for sharing your story as well. We appreciate it. Angie, your video's on too, I think. So So thank you all so much. We're gonna have our, we'll have our, good, we have an advice from Clementine. You can try to work hard for your task and try to be humble for everyone. Well, definitely, it's a big topic. It's a big topic, and I did so much research on it, and there's post-COVID, things change. Things change with COVID of people having different expectations about what they want from their job, what they want from work-life balance. So anyway, I hope this is helpful, and I look forward to seeing you all in our next session. All right, you guys, I'll see you at our next event. Thank you all so much for joining me today.
You and I, we're breaking bounds on bounds.